Hey everyone, welcome back to 6 Degrees of Associations. I am your host, Lucas McCann. With us today, Meg Killian, EVP, National Association of Enrolled Agents. Welcome to the show, Meg.
Thank you, Lucas. I'm really happy to be here with you today.
Excellent. Well, this will be fun. As I always do, I hate that word always. Most of the time do. I'm going to hand you the microphone. Sometimes I keep it, but I'm going to hand it to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you found this world of associations.
Well, I think like most association professionals, I kind of stumbled into it. I had been working in the nonprofit world doing marketing and PR and saw an ad in the newspaper, back when jobs were advertised in the classified
I
newspaper.
do remember that. I remember the TV guide. There was lots of things in print back in the day. Yes.
So I saw an ad for a marketing role at a state association, and ended up working there for more than 18 years. Started out as a marketing administrator, and then eventually moving up into becoming the vice president of membership. And I also oversaw our foundation for the organization I worked with at the time.
What kept you there for 18 years, if I could ask? That's a long time at one
It
place.
is a long time. I never dreamed I'd be at one place for so long when I, first started out working. I like change,
Hmm.
but I think that's kind of one of the reasons why I stayed there for so long. With the association world, association work, there's so much variety. There's always new things to do. There's always, moving around, and you can wear a lot of hats, and
Hmm.
the people are always new, whether it's your leadership that's coming in and out or new members coming in. It's just, the variety of work. And I like, I think associations, while sometimes can be seen as a little stagnant or entrenched, that hasn't been my experience. I think I've been fortunate to be in organizations that are, a little bit more progressive, always looking for new ways of doing things, trying to stay on top of trends, whether it's technology or marketing and things like that. So constantly learning, whether it's learning about the variety of work within associations or learning more about the work that the profession that you're representing does. So, it's always constant learning, constant meeting new people, and a lot of change. And I think that's just what's kept me in this world for so long.
Yeah. Well, those are my favorite associations because I've been, beating the drum for almost 25 years about how they're always 10 years behind. We have to
Yeah.
catch them up and we have to think growth mindedly and we have to be entrepreneurial and do things and not just get stuck in the rut. I mean, were there specific things at that organization? Did they just give you a lot of leeway and say, dream and go, or, what more specifically, how did they do it differently to stay that progressive?
Well, they had, a decent amount of reserves and revenue. So, the
Money helps.
means,
Yeah.
resources help. And, just having internal champions that kind of are looking ahead and looking outside of the association world and bringing those ideas and thoughts back, and back to the organization. And really, listening and looking at what our members are doing too. Especially if you're working with a profession that is very fast paced and there's a lot of changes happening, and kind of keeping up with their evolution and their energy as well. And I think, going back to, your question too about what's kept me here too is, most associations started for the purpose of advocacy work, at the heart. And, association services have evolved over years. But I think being an advocate for the profession you're represented is still at the heart of the mission. And I think, if you keep going back to that and everything that you're doing kind of leans in that direction, that kind of helps keep you grounded, and whether you're trying something new or, holding on to some of those, things that you've been doing forever, as long as they still serve the mission, then you're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, agreed. You know what, Meg? You may have just completely changed my outlook. I said I've been beating this drum for 25 years. I've been beating it on the mantra of, corporate America is 10 years ahead of the association. But what you said is sometimes the association can be behind its members. And that's just a better lighted path, if you will, to follow. Like, is your association behind your members? Like, that is not a place it can be. You have to be at
No.
least meeting them where they are.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly.
Well, so a good part of that, my understanding, you can correct me if I'm wrong, jump in. I'm wrong all the time, so it's okay if you tell me I'm not. But membership recruitment, retention is a big part outside of that advocacy piece. Yeah, talk to me a little bit about how that's changed in the past 5 years. And again, I mentioned I don't want to go back 10 years anymore because there's enough change in 5 years that we don't need to create a 2-hour episode about the last 10 years because we could.
Right. Right. A lot has changed. I mean, I think the pace of change is so much quicker than it used to be. All the technology changes that happened in the last, decade to 20 years, that just continues to accelerate. So recruitment and retention is really, it's almost a battle for attention. Most working professionals are very busy and have a lot on their minds and have a lot coming their way. And when you are communicating mostly digitally, whether it's through email or through social media, things like that, I mean, everyone is just getting inundated with information.
Yeah.
And trying to break through that clutter is something that all associations, all organizations and businesses are struggling with, and getting that very limited attention that you might get from a member is definitely continuing to be a challenge. You may be providing the best service in the world, but if you're not reaching them with that service or letting them know that you exist, then that's going to be really hard to get them engaged and part of your organization. And then once they are part of the organization, getting them to engage in what you're offering enough so that they find value in it, that they have that loyalty and affinity to the organization so that they want to stay a member of the organization. You're still trying to break through all the clutter of all the things that have coming at them, whether it's work or personal life. Not to go down the COVID rabbit hole, but, post-COVID, I think people's work habits, their communication habits, how they want to spend their time has just changed so dramatically that, we've had to adjust a lot of what we do on the association side to adapt to the changing needs and interests of our members.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot has changed. I sometimes forget that 5 years. If I use that reference point, that encapsulates a pretty big event. So, what are those? What's one or two things that you think of on the retention side? Because I agree that the recruitment side is really difficult. Like getting them to notice you the first time, like dating somebody, right? Like how do you get them to notice you? And then once you start dating, like how do you keep them? What are some of the things that you all bank on, emphasize in this culture today to get them to stick?
Yeah. I mean, in the tax world, I mean, enrolled agents are tax professionals. There's so much out there. There's so many resources. There's so many associations and other working groups, social media groups. Enrolled agents have to take professional education to maintain their license. And many, many years ago, NAEA and other organizations like us were the only places where they could get that kind of education. And now it's all over. It's, from free stuff to not free stuff. And so a lot of the continuing education services we provided or have provided over the years and continue to do so, we've had to change that model a bit to be able to stay on top of, breaking news and updates. We're offering a lot more complimentary education as part of our membership proposition. So while it's definitely a source of additional revenue, it has become part of our membership model. And that's been extremely well received by members. We've increased our engagement in our education programs significantly since we started offering more things at no cost. But there's still, high quality, great speakers. We peer review all our programs. The quality of the program has not suffered at all. We're just reaching more with that. So that's been a big part of driving value. Everybody knows a member that's engaged in at least something with your association is more likely to renew. So trying to get them to, be involved in something, whether it's education or advocacy or being a volunteer or being on our message board. We have a very active message board, which I know seems like 10 years ago, but it's still very active. It's a safe, private place for members to ask questions of other members. And we have so many amazing experts on our board that are donating their time and expertise to answer those questions of other members. So it's creating sort of that community, that safe space, that, place where they know they're going to come and get reliable information from experts, as opposed to, going out into some of these other groups where you don't necessarily know who else you're interacting with.
I actually think the membership group, sort of that chat forum area, is going to come back in a way. I think I'm a little personally spent with other forms of social media. The rise of AI gives the opportunity for bots of all types of influence to be monitoring and moving the conversation in a particularly sometimes biased way. And so that is, if you're behind a firewall and you're in a chat room, I'll call it, or forum, with only trusted members, dues paying certified members, I think that's a huge value add, versus just, I'm going to ask ChatGPT. Well, who ultimately is going to control ChatGPT, right? It's going to have its own bias, just like Google and every other news publication platform, social media. So,
yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think finding those safe spaces, those places where you can have a conversation or ask a question, and know that you're going to get a reliable answer, or know that you're not going to be attacked or, criticized like, people like to do on social media, is also, I think, a big benefit of being in these private networks.
yeah. I hate to even say, even on LinkedIn, which I always held as a gold standard for a professional network, I will say it's gotten a little bit, I don't know how to say it, but I think we all know what I'm saying.
I know exactly what you're saying. Yes. Yeah.
It's not the safe professional space necessarily that it always was. It still has a lot of value. I still consider it my digital business card, so to speak, or digital resume, but and it is mostly business.
Yeah.
So current day, given all of that landscape, what are maybe some opportunities that arise from today's challenges, or maybe more specifically, what are some of those challenges that you all are facing?
I mean, our biggest challenges right now are really helping our members navigate so many changes in the tax landscape, and the tax administration landscape in particular, just with so many changes at the IRS, service changes. I don't want to go too far down that hole there, but a lot of, the federal government employees and changes there that have affected service at the IRS. Their modernization or lack thereof. So helping our members navigate changes or advocate for changes, to see stronger technology, to see more online tools, just to see that, the IRS work more efficiently. So that's been a big challenge. That was already a big challenge before there were some significant layoffs and staffing changes at the IRS. So, helping them work through that, but then also demonstrating our relevance and our ability to help make those changes. So, us having a seat at the table when it comes to what's happening at the IRS, working with the various internal contacts, being one of the main stakeholder groups so that the enrolled agent voice can be heard by the decision makers is really important. And we've worked really hard to develop strong relationships with people that are still there, and I know still want to make a lot of improvements. So continuing to bring our member voice to those conversations, because it's something that doing as a group is going to be way more effective than individual members, reaching out individually to air their complaints or make their suggestions.
Yeah. I mean, somebody's got to be at that table advocating
Yeah.
for the agents.
Yeah.
Actually, Meg, let me ask a very ignorant question that just came up as you were speaking. That information, right? It's changing at such a rapid pace. If you like it or don't like it, maybe wait a couple hours these days.
Yep.
How does that information get disseminated down to the enrolled agents? Like, what is the communication path? I mean, I have a tax professional who handles all that. I run a couple of businesses. I have a podcast, a family. Like, that's not something I've ever researched. I'm just curious.
So how a tax professional gets their information?
Yeah, how are those changes, communicated as quickly as possible and as
Well, it's
possible, I
funny.
said.
Yeah. I mean, the tax community is huge and they're all very active in various circles. So not just within NAEA, but other groups. And you'd be surprised how sometimes we find out things from members that were just leaked out somewhere, or someone knows someone at IRS or some other agency. And so there's definitely a lot of sharing amongst the community. But we try to stay on top of changes and get that information. And sometimes we are the first to know as the association, as well as, our fellow tax groups. And we share that out as soon as we know. But I'm always surprised at how often sometimes things are already being leaked out before we can even start to think about our communication plan on something.
Yeah, I've been again up in the DC area now for almost 25 years, and I'm maybe still surprised by that. I shouldn't, because we see it happen all the time in various circles at various levels on different topics and on all the such. But it does it gets out somehow. There's a way.
Yep.
What about other opportunities that come out of that? I tend to be a optimistic, glass half full type of person. What's a likely outcome or benefit that may come out of this time that you are considering?
I think, the biggest opportunity is us just continuing to be a really strong advocate for the profession and having that seat at the table and being one of the few groups that are able to communicate our feedback to the decision makers, whether it's Department of Treasury or IRS or Congress. We've got their ear, and we're able to continue to share our feedback and our members' feedback with them, whether it's on specific tax law things that they're considering, whether it's how something's being implemented. Like for instance, right now we have the big beautiful bill, which has a lot of changes in it that are going to impact the 2025 filing. So we are actively working on getting clarification and information from the Department of Treasury so that we can make sure that our members have as much information as possible going into the tax season to start preparing, their practices and their clients for those changes. So, we're able to probably get access to that kind of stuff a lot sooner than the individual tax practitioners.
Yeah. I like that as an opportunity to sort of lean into the relationship side of the whole thing and be an advocate. Hard times harden relationships. I've heard that somewhere, whether good or bad. So that can go both ways. If you're on the positive side, it can strengthen it, harden it in a good way. And if you're not, then it can harden it and worsen it in a bad way. And I'd say these are I don't think most people would argue these are pretty divisive times. And so you want to be on the right side of the hardening there.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I teed you up, or at least prompted you. I would ask this question, so maybe you thought about it, but it was also like 20 minutes ago. So if you had a million dollars, or your budget doubled in a particular area, what would be that program that you would be kind of eyeing to start? Because there's always programs that we want to do. Budget constraints are real. Sounds like the organization does have some reserves, and but what would be that program you'd be eyeing?
I love that question. And when you asked me earlier, I knew immediately what I was going to say. Um, one of the things that our members are really passionate about and really look towards NAEA for is awareness. I'm going to guess you probably didn't know what an enrolled agent was until you started talking to our association.
I looked it up. I had to do some research, but yeah, it's available information.
So a lot of people don't know what an enrolled agent is. They often think that, you're a tax professional, so you must be a CPA. Or, a lot of tax professionals don't even have a credential. You don't really need to have one to be a tax professional, or to do tax returns, I should say. So the enrolled agents have often been overlooked in terms of awareness, as far as, them being tax experts. And, NAEA has been around for a little over 50 years and has really worked at trying to raise awareness of the profession of enrolled agents. There's a lot fewer enrolled agents in the marketplace than there are other accounting or tax and accounting professionals. So, so sometimes it's just a numbers game in terms of, you've got 65,000 enrolled agents versus, I don't know, 650,000 CPAs. So you're most likely to know a CPA or run into one, as opposed to an enrolled agent. And the enrolled agent, it is, it's administered by the Department of Treasury too. So it's a government issued credential. It's not a state level credential. So that's been a big issue for us, and something I think our members are 100% passionate about. So I would love to do just like a multi-million-dollar awareness campaign talking about enrolled agents and what they do and where their expertise is, and why they should hire one and use one for their, to do their tax work, and all the multitude of other work that they do. Enrolled agents are different than some other tax professionals because they can represent a taxpayer in front of the IRS. So that's a special practice right that an enrolled agent has. So making sure that taxpayers and the general public know that, because there's so many bad actors out there that want to take advantage of people who are in that type of situation. And you want to make sure that you're working with someone that is trusted and reliable, and knows their stuff, knows what they're doing in the representation space. So 100%, it would be just a huge awareness campaign.
I like that. Awareness, education, always a good investment. So would it be, are we talking physical, like you're going to paint 1,000 autonomous vehicles and like send them out, or you're going to like float a big mysterious balloon across the US with, enrolled agent information on it? Or is it digital, like Super Bowl ad, or, you're going to take over X?
Well, I mean, you said, money is no object.
I did. Yeah, we're waving the magic wand here. Like, how
all
much?
the above.
All the above. Why limit it to just physical or digital? Yeah, let's go all in. That would work.
I just heard that Bad Bunny is going to be the Super Bowl performer this year. So maybe getting him to wear like an enrolled agent shirt or something like that, or do a shout out to his tax professional during the halftime show.
If you get through and to him somehow and his agent and figure out how much that would cost, please share, because I'd be very curious what it would take for him to be, I'm sure he's got 4 or 5 outfit changes, but like if one of them were like NAEA,
Exactly.
People would be like, what is that? That's its own Super Bowl ad. There'd be a lot of zeros behind that one, I'm guessing.
I'm sure.
Well, a couple of fun ones, starting out with, What about, look back at your career, could be something current, could be something past. What's some of your work that you're really proud of?
Um, so in my last job, I had mentioned that I was the vice president, oversaw our foundation. I was really involved in starting the foundation side of what we were doing. So it was, the charitable side of the association. So it was doing all of the scholarship work,
Hmm.
the awareness with colleges and universities and students. It was an accounting association, so it was highly focused on promoting accounting careers. And we started a bunch of new programs that really helped, I think, make a big difference in that space. And I brought a lot of those ideas and those programs over to NAEA when I came on board here. So we have expanded our foundation's work. We've expanded our scholarship programs.
Mm-hmm.
And we've done a lot in the awareness space in terms of just building stronger relationships with schools and colleges and really talking about taxes and the enrolled agent as a career option. If you are thinking about going into tax and accounting and you really want to specialize in tax, it's a great credential to look at. Not to say that others aren't great as well. It's just, another alternative that I think a lot of people didn't know about. So working with the influencers that are talking to and influencing students and young career professionals about the enrolled agent credential, I think we've made, although I said, a big awareness campaign would be tops on my list. I think we've made a lot of progress in the last few years.
Yeah, it's a great way to get somebody early in their career thinking about something like that as well. I have a high schooler. I could ask him now, what do you want to be? And he doesn't know. I mean,
Yeah.
so sometimes you just have to take some awareness and shove it down their throat and, at least educate them on something, steer them as much as, we can, and then they go off and do their own thing. To be fair, I didn't know what I wanted to do at that age either, but I'm sure my parents asked me as well. All I wanted to do was play basketball and hang out with my friends, and maybe sometimes I still do. So,
I think it's making sure that those that are influential, not us as parents are not, but we are. But when you're talking about career planning, guidance counselors and key teachers and college professors, and those that really talk about what's out there and help steer them in the right direction.
yeah. Well, we're going to pile that on top of the awareness campaign too, with the multi-million dollars.
Oh, absolutely.
We're going to have somebody visit every school and throw a party seminar and hand out, iPhones to everybody. And why not? We got unlimited.
I love it. I love it.
So looking at the calendar, I'd say a classic one. I'm curious about the question too. What is something that ends up on your calendar? You got a blank slate for 2026. What's the first thing you write in?
So, on the personal side, every year, in recent years, my husband and I have taken a trip with a group of friends. So it's like a 3-day weekend. And we do that usually in January or February. So that's the first thing that goes on my calendar. That's like the first time in the, beginning of the year that I can really kind of just disconnect, and just enjoy a weekend with friends and having fun at a resort, on a beach. So it's definitely the first thing I look forward to every year.
What was your most recent, or one of the most recent that stands out?
We went to Cancun last year, and that was a lot of fun. We met some very interesting people. There were other large groups there when we were there. And it was just, a nice place and lots of great conversation and super fun. And, we're there. Nobody has kids there. So it's, we're all just very focused on each other. So
That's a vacation. I say if the kids are there, it's a trip. If and then if it's no kids, it's a vacation.
Exactly.
Yeah. How about on the business side?
On the business side, even though we plan this pretty far out, we have our annual Capital Fly-In Day in May. And it's really one of my favorite events that we do all year. We do it's actually a 2-day event. We bring our members to DC and we do a prep day where we bring in speakers and we talk about important issues. We've had, IRS commissioners speak at the event. We've had the taxpayer advocate. We've had various legislative aides and reporters. So it's just a really cool day of a lot of great conversations and information. And then, we take all that, we do a little bit of training, and then the next day we hit the Hill and we go and we visit with legislators and their aides up on the Hill and talk about what the priorities are for the enrolled agent community, whether it's specific tax issues or services for tax professionals or issues that are impacting their clients. We have, a full day of conversations with legislators on the Hill, and it's a lot of fun. And I think that's also another thing that has really helped raise the awareness of enrolled agents and have positioned them in a space where they are trusted advisors also to legislators. When they're considering legislation, knowing that they can turn to a tax professional and say, "Hey, how's this going to impact my constituents?" So building those relationships, those individual relationships between our members and their legislators.
Yeah, and the member engagement, I mean, is second to none. I mean, talk about having a seat at the table, getting to be right there while the decisions are being discussed and made, and all of that. I mean, you don't probably have too many of those that go through that period, that event with you, that don't re-enroll as members.
Oh no, they love it. The ones that come are just so excited about it and so passionate about it. It's just, it truly is like my favorite thing that we do all year.
Yeah. And the timing seems right. After tax season, they get a couple of weeks to sleep or go to Cancun, then they can come back and charge the Hill after they've re-energized. Because I know my tax professional's ready to do anything but taxes for at least a couple of weeks after the deadline.
Yep.
Well, one more. What about something about Meg? We'll call it fun fact that they couldn't find on your resume or online, and it's hard these days.
Well, I mean, this probably isn't unique, but I love musical theater. And I often joke about writing a musical about an association.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like there's just so many funny stories and so many characters that it just lends itself to some form of storytelling. I mean, it probably wouldn't be Broadway worthy, but I think other association professionals would probably enjoy it. So I don't know, maybe someday I'll actually put pen to paper and put it together.
That would be great. I remember, years ago, I had some friends who were like, we're gonna leave our jobs in association. We're gonna write the screenplay for the movie that is the association world. And specifically at that time, through the lens, we were much younger and like doing the trade show circuits a lot. And so it was all about like what happens at conventions and expos and like the front of the house, the back of the house, the show hours, the not show hours. You could see it was definitely going to be a comedy drama, but
Oh, absolutely.
and I'm sure and I think there are a couple of movies out there kind of not specifically associations, but kind of, relate to that whole experience.
Yeah.
But a musical sounds much classier, and I would rather go see that. So when you write it and it's out there, I will go see it.
All right. I'll make sure you get an invite.
Yeah. Well, I have the unfortunate pleasure of wrapping us up, but I would like to know, Megan, I didn't prompt you before the show, but maybe you've seen the show enough. That is there somebody in your network that you believe our audience would benefit from hearing from?
So, I think that you would really love to have a conversation with Sarah Hussey, who is the executive director of the Allegheny County Medical Society here in Pennsylvania. She's a force. She's just so inspiring. She has taken what was probably sort of a little quiet group in Western Pennsylvania and has raised its profile significantly. Especially with so many things going on in the medical profession right now. She's really done a lot to raise the profile of, the organization, and has brought them to getting involved in a lot more discussions than I think they were before. She has endless energy too. I don't know where she gets it, because she's got two little kids and side hustles, and yeah, I think you would really enjoy talking to her. She's really big about, seeing women succeed in what is normally a male-dominated field, like medicine. So I think you'd have a great conversation with her.
Wonderful. I know Sarah, and it'd be great to
Oh,
get on a
okay.
mic with her again,
Nice to meet you.
and yeah, and chat and catch up. So look forward to that. And thank you so much, Meg, for this time, and taking away from your time at the association, recording with us, and sharing stories, and dreaming up how we're going to spend a few $1 million on awareness.
Thank you. This was really fun. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure.